I wondered if I should do what I'm about ready to do. Because what I'm about ready to do is something I'm not sure that you're going to like. But I don't know, I've been wrong about everything else about you guys, so maybe I'll be wrong about this too. The Cotton Patch Gospel. Anybody ever heard of the Cotton Patch Gospel? I like you because you don't know anything I know. It's beautiful. It sets me up really good. I mean, it's an amazing thing. I can look out and say, Carl Lewis, and there'd not be a single person know what I'm talking about. Do you have any idea what kind of license that gives me? Cotton Patch Gospel? No? Oh, goody. Clarence Jordan got his PhD in Koine Greek in Texas back in the 50s. And while he was there, maybe in 40s, later 40s, he just asked the question, what should I do in ministry? And he's a different kind of guy. But I want you to think, what was life like for black people back in the 50s?
So good.
Okay.
Oh, like, what are you talking about, Stephanie?
Like, can't drink out of the same water fountains.
Can't get a job, stick with water fountains, can't use that restroom, can't go to the same schools. Pretty much if you're down in the South, get beat up, get lynched. It's kind of tough being a black guy in the South. So he says, you know, I think I sense the call of God on my life to go to Georgia, to go to Georgia and start an interracial community. Yeah, a place where black and white people can live together and raise crops. That's what I think I want to do. You know, you talk about a moron, there he goes to Georgia. He buys a bunch of land, says, black people, white people, come on, let's live together and raise crops. Yeah, if you want to die, that's a great thing to do. I mean, did you ever heard of the KKK?
Yes.
They live in Georgia. They hate white people that love black people. Oh, they already hate black people, that's easy. But white people that like black people, you're dead. They're going to be after you. So he goes there and says, I love black people. I love white people. Come on, let's be one together. So they all get together and start raising crops. He tries to teach surrounding farms about how you too, Mr. Black Farmer, you can raise crops. I can teach you how to do this. I've been to school for this. And begins teaching. And boy, he causes all kinds of trouble. But he just loves Jesus. His Baptist church says, you're out of here. His Baptist church says you're out of here. Ku Klux Klan. I've been there before. Been on the property. There's a shack out in the back where he did all his writing, formed all his preaching. Ku Klux Klan would come by and just shoot bullets. Shoot. So he says, okay, I've been working here. I think God is inspiring me to write a cotton patch version of the Gospels. Now this is not the King James Version, all right? What he says is, I'm going to go in, and because these people can't even begin to understand what was going on in Galilee at the time, let's say, I'm going to go in and I'm going to try to find equivalents in Georgia. Now, he wasn't doing this to have fun. He wasn't doing this to be cute. He was doing this to communicate. And so, for instance, all the disciples' names were things like Jim, Jack, Matt, Nat, Bart. Get what he's doing? Just take first syllables and be done with it. He didn't know anybody named Nathaniel Bartholomew. So Nat and Bart worked just fine. Then he said, okay, instead of Jesus being baptized in the Jordan River, let's dip Jesus, John the Baptizer dipped Jesus in the Chattahoochee. Right? Instead of Jerusalem, we're going to use Atlanta. And instead of Passover, Jesus goes to the Back to the Bible Society Convention. All right? Instead of Washington, D.C., which they do not understand, or instead of Rome, they don't understand, they do understand Washington, D.C. So he did this, and he created the Cotton Patch Gospels. Can I say, I think they're brilliant. You may not like them, but I think they're brilliant. So one day, Jesus comes on and says, expert in the law, you got a question for me? Expert in the law says, I do that. What's the most important commandment? He says, love God. Actually, he goes, well, let's read about it. Can I just read to you the Cotton Patch Gospel? Just look up at me. Don't read it. You just look up at me and let me tell it to you. One day, a teacher of the adult Bible class got up and tested him with this question. Doctor, what does one do to be saved? Jesus replied, well, what does the Bible say? I know it's hard to imagine Jesus with a southern accent. Work with me here, okay? How do you interpret it? Teacher answered, well, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your physical strength, and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. That's correct, said Jesus. Make a habit of this and you'll be saved. But the Sunday school teacher, trying to save face, asked, but who is my neighbor? And he's about ready to tell a racial story. You and I don't read as racial because we're idiots. Because we don't know what a Samaritan is. But if you read the story, a Samaritan is a particular race, and they are hated. And so he's about ready to tell a Jewish Samaritan story. He's about ready to say, your neighbor is the one who's hurting by the side of the road. But it's deeper than that. Maybe there's racial connotations to loving your neighbor too. That's about ready to do. When Jesus told the story of the Good Samaritan, Clarence Jordan thought, I wonder who the Samaritan would be in Georgia. And that's how he tells the story. Sunday school teacher tried to save his face. He says, just who is my neighbor? And Jesus laid into him and said, well, a man was going from Atlanta to Albany, and some gangsters held him up. When they robbed him of his wallet and brand new suit, they beat him up and drove off in his car, leaving him unconscious on the shoulder of the highways. Now, just so happened that a white preacher was going down that same highway. When he saw the fella, he stepped on the gas and went scooting by. Now, he had some footnotes in here, so I'm going to raise my hand when there's a footnote. Here we go. His homiletical mind probably made the following outline. Number 1, I do not know the man. Number 2, I do not wish to get involved in any court proceedings. Number 3, I don't want to get blood on my new upholstering. Number 4, the man's lack of proper clothing would embarrass me on my arrival in the town. And number 5, finally, brethren, a minister must never be late for worship services. Shortly afterwards, a white gospel song leader came down the road. And when he saw what had happened, he too stepped on the gas. What his thoughts were, we'll never know. But as he whizzed past, he may well been whistling right in the corner where you are. Then a black man tramped down that same way, compound fella. What he saw moved him to tears. He stopped, bound up wounds best he could, drew some water from the water jug, wiped away the blood, then laid him on the back seat. All the while, his thoughts may well have been along this line. Somebody's robbed you. Yeah, I know about that. I've been robbed too. And they done beat you up bad. I know about that. It beat me up bad too. And that may just go right on by, leaving you laying here hurting. I know, mister. They passed me by too. We drove on into Albany, took the man to the hospital and said to the nurse, you take care of this white man I found on the highway. He's the only $2 I got, but you keep count of what he owes, and if you can't pay it, I'll settle up when I make a payday. Now, if you've been the man held up by the gangsters, which of these three, the white preacher, the white song leader, or the black man, would you consider to be your neighbor? The teacher of the adult Bible class said, well, of course, the nigger, the one who treated me kindly. Jesus says, well, then you get going. Start living like that. Whoa. If Jesus were here today, you know how you tell the story? Hey, you holiness people. Let me tell you a story. A holiness preacher was going down the road. That's how he tells the story. And he got beat up and laid on the side. There's another holiness preacher that came down that road. And then a holiness song leader came down that road. And then someone with AIDS. And the person with AIDS stopped. maybe holiness is a whole lot more mind-boggling than we ever imagined. But we want to fit it into our little boxes and make Jesus conform to us.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus says, I want you to be full of me, full of my mercy. And I want you to be heartbroken over the things that break the heart of God. And I want you to know that's going to put you into some serious dilemmas in life. But what Jesus said was, blessed are those who have their heart broken over the things that break the heart of God. Mm-hmm. Blessed are those who are full of Eliamon, who know how to get inside the skin of somebody who he wants you to help. And then actually does something about it. Doesn't just preach on it. Doesn't just have a Bible study on it. It actually moves that direction. This holiness stuff, I'm going to tell you, can get to be real uncomfortable.